Today we're going to be discussing the film His Three Daughters, and I had to use a sort of melancholic track of mine for this video because this is going to be a sad movie to discuss. So if you're looking for something fun to watch right now, this is not the video for you and you should click away, because this is a movie that deals with some pretty rough stuff. So the movie essentially revolves around obviously three daughters. You have Katie, you have Rachel, and you have Christina, who, if you can notice, is played by Elizabeth Olsen. So the essential plot of the movie is that you have a father who is basically living out his last few days from a terminal illness, and you have the three daughters coming back home to essentially see him off and make his last few days, as comfortable as possible, and to be there when he actually passes away. The movie, when it starts out, feels very theatrical almost, because the dialogue that you hear in the first 10 minutes is between the three daughters and them sort of discussing the situation and how they've been and everything, and the way they sort of talk and the flow of their words is very almost theatrical, like how theater actors give monologues. There's a certain rhythm to it, and within the first 15 minutes I was like, is this something I want to continue watching on a Saturday night? Because it just felt a bit strange in the beginning, but as the movie proceeds, it becomes a bit more familiar and more natural, I would say. This movie, when it ended, truly left an impact on me, because there were so many things that I didn't notice while I was watching the movie, but when I went online and people talked about it and how there were certain details about the movie that just felt so real and organic almost, I just had so much respect for this film, because essentially a lot of people, when they watch this movie, they have had this scenario happen to them where they have lost a loved one, and they have been there in their last few days. And so this movie really does justice to that experience of sending someone off. But the essential mystery of this film is that why are the three daughters so antagonistic towards each other? There's so much tension between these three daughters, these three siblings, and you, for the first, I would say, 20-30 minutes, you have no idea why. There's this weird tension between all three, and there is a very big reason that gets revealed in the middle of the movie, but I'm not gonna say it because it's done so cleverly. The way they sort of reveal this information is so well written and so well done. I just don't want to spoil it for you if you do end up watching this movie. But you have these three daughters. They don't like each other, but they have to somehow stay civil and just be there for their father. The essential setup of this movie is that you have two daughters who actually came home, which are Katie and Christina. Rachel is the one that stayed with the father at their home, and she used to take care of him. She and her boyfriend used to spend time with them, keep him company, take care of him and everything. But when things got worse, Katie and Christina flew in. But when they did come home, the two daughters, Rachel takes a very sudden and spontaneous backseat to taking care of her father. She goes out, she smokes, gets high, and she just isn't handling the situation well, and you can obviously see that as you're watching the movie. But the reason this film really captivated me is because the experience that they have portrayed in this movie, there's so many details, there's so many nuances that if you haven't experienced something like this, you do not understand. The movie is quite literally centered in the apartment, and so it builds this sort of idea of routine and just constant focus, constant attention of one individual under the care of three people. And just the way they sort of illustrate the experience of how people process a situation like that differently is just amazing. Because you have someone like Katie who is uptight, strict, extremely disciplined. There are scenes of her on the phone always with her teenage daughter who is always arguing with her and fighting with her. You have Rachel, who lived with the father, who again is distancing herself from the situation, getting high, spending time with her boyfriend and everything. And you have Christina, who feels like someone who is super involved, with her husband and her kid, and she feels constantly homesick. She's actually the only one who calls home and informs them about her father's situation, and they check up on her also and how she's doing. And so you have these three people who are processing the situation differently. Katie is trying to sort of exert her influence over the apartment, and she's really harsh on Rachel because she feels like she's just being herself and everything. Christina is like sort of the middle ground in terms of like, trying to be the mediator between the two. And I just want to say, like, Elizabeth Olsen did crazy job, portraying this character, because the entire time you really don't know what to feel about her, but then there's this one scene where she goes off and you're like, holy shit, like she really was in the end, like, the powerhouse of this movie when all the events happen and everything. There's also like a constant concern and anxiety at every given point in this movie, because at any point the father could pass away, and so anytime something dramatic happens or someone rushes into a room, everyone's like concerned about it. And so obviously, like, a lot of people who watch this movie who have been through this stuff that I've talked about before, they've had very, like, strong reactions to this. For me personally, like, I've had grandparents who like were in a similar situation like that. Not that they were gonna pass at any moment, but like, there's a certain attention, there's a certain focus that has to be maintained when someone is sick. And I've seen that firsthand. And a lot of people online, when they watch the movie, they have actually been in a situation where they've lost a parent, and it has happened the exact same way, where they had to fly in and basically try to be there when they pass away. And it is like a very sad movie in the sense that there's literally no hope, right? There's no chance. Like, from the first minute of the movie, you are told that this man is going to pass away. There's no hope, there's no glimmer that he's gonna suddenly like be good and everything. It's just inevitable. There's no hope, there's nothing, and it's just a matter of waiting it out. And again, it was a movie that I randomly, like, got into watching, and I'm glad I stuck with it, because the ending and the way it ends and the way it impacted me is so real. I'm trying not to spoil the ending of what happens and everything, but the ending was absolutely beautiful. Like, it was so creative, it was so, I don't know, it was just so well done. The movie is also shot really well. Like, I just like the style of, like, having these extended shots on people and having very minimal cuts. There are very minimal cuts in this movie. It's very slow, it's not fast, it's like it builds up to an ending, but the movie is fairly slow, and it's nice. Like, it's not a bad slow, it's a nice slow, because you really understand the gravity of the situation, you understand the nuances of the characters and the way they're speaking, and it's just really well written, really well shot. They use the environments to the best of their abilities, and it's just really well done. Like, I really can't fault any of it. And yeah, ultimately, like, this movie shows that, death is a very powerful, like, aspect of our lives, and it can truly mend years and years of frustration between people, and it can make people who have been, antagonistic to each other for the longest time be civil and eventually become friendly towards each other, and suddenly try to make the best out of the situation, and try that they make the effort to make up for lost time that they cannot recover, but hopefully in the present and in the future they can try to be more involved with each other and their lives. Because in the very beginning of the movie, you realize that these three have not talked in a while. Rachel has no idea about, like, Christina's life, her kid, her husband, and Katie feels the same way. Like, her daughter's grown up also. It doesn't feel like the other two sisters have really kept up with, like, all of that in her life. And so it truly feels like these three people who are siblings haven't been under the same roof in so long. And it took a really sad situation for them to try to mend their bonds and hopefully reach a place of understanding and compassion. I would highly recommend the movie. Yeah, but just don't watch it on a day that you want to be sad. Like, this movie gets real pretty fast. And yeah, I guess that's the video. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. It's free for you, but it's prices for me. Go check out my music and go drink some coffee.